topic I selected was just that Bible verse, 1 Peter 5 verse 7, which we probably could put up about now. This is one verse out of many from the first of two letters by the Apostle Peter, who was living in Rome. Peter wrote to the Christian community throughout Asia Minor, or Turkey, the ones we learned about in Revelation, I'll get told off again, in Revelation recently. These same communities we've been studying as a church. They were suffering persecution, suffering of all kinds, and were pretty miserable. Before we get to the verse, it's worth pointing out this was a letter. And chapter 2 starts with therefore. Chapter 4 and 5 starts with therefore. Chapter 3 starts with in the same way. So it's all linked together. And really, the whole thing has to be read as a letter. I've never had a letter and just read the end of it. You've got to read the whole thing. And I'm not going to go over the whole thing because that would be a month of Sundays, literally. We're just focusing on this verse. Casting all your anxiety upon him because he cares for you. And the first point, in every situation, cast all your anxiety upon him. What are you facing right now? What concerns you, worries you, bothers you? What even consumes you? And what does it mean to cast that anxiety, concern or worry on him? What does it actually mean? It's easy to say, I just said it. Go on, cast your anxieties on him. Does this verse read on Sunday, make any difference on Monday? Do you know this verse? Are you familiar with it? Just wait. It doesn't stand on its own, does it? If you look, it's only half a sentence. In most translations, in some translations it's a sentence, but it's mainly half a sentence with a comma, and before that is the rest of the sentence. So, the verse before, 6, and God will exalt you in due time, or lift you up, if you humble yourselves under his mighty hand, by casting all your cares on him, because he cares for you. Do I believe this? Yes, I do. Do you believe this? Yes. Do you believe this? Yes. There's a lot in that. He's going to exalt you in due time, not straight away, guys, if you humble yourselves under his mighty hand by casting all your cares on him because he cares for you. I really can't recall ever being persecuted for my faith in the way that the believers in the early church were that this letter was addressed to. Or that's happening throughout the world today. We're so fortunate in New Zealand, but this still applies to us. I'm trying to understand what reading this verse felt like to them. Imagine it, you're suffering, you might be losing your job, or you're being driven out of town, or beaten up or something, and this dude from Rome sends you a letter saying, cast all your cares on him. It'll be all good. Imagine that. God will exalt you in due time if you humble yourselves under his mighty hand by casting all your cares on him because he cares for you. Don't do it, but you could just about turn to the person next to you and tell them that, whatever their problem is. And it's correct, but it must have been tough to hear. It's actually an instruction, this verse. It's an encouragement to stay the course when we face difficulties. The believers are exhorted to humble themselves, and that's one of the keys, and then cast all their cares on him, believing in due time God will exalt them because he actually does care for them. Let's think about casting cares. What does it mean? When I was a newborn baby, I don't remember this bit, but I was apparently born, my optimal visual focal point was, does anyone know? That's right, from the head to the breast. 20 to 30 centimetres. The eyes of a newborn baby cannot focus beyond that, and they're ideally suited to focus on mum or dad and the feeding machine. I can say that, can't I? Beyond that, everything was a blur, but at that distance, everything would have been sharp. As I grew up, the optimal focal point would have changed, and now, as an adult, my optimal focal point is infinity. You can see the stars, right? Imagine a baby seeing the stars and being confused. It's just as well it can not do that. We've got an amazing God. So I was able to gaze at my parents during feeding or cuddling, allowing me to gaze directly at my mother or father. And beyond the cuddling distance, the world was largely a blur. I was fully focused on mum or dad. mainly mum, I think. And so I cast my cares on my mum. What else was the baby supposed to do? Are we casting our cares on Jesus like he's right there and we're focused on him? And when everything else is blurred out, that's the best picture of how I think casting our cares might be. I didn't actually know for sure that she could actually provide for me. I just trusted. I didn't think about it. I had no alternative. I knew no alternative, and we have no alternative. We only have one God. There's no point going anywhere else. Trust in him. Don't think about it too much. What if? What about this? What about that? Well, where else are you going to go? Who else are you going to call? There's only one God. If you are a believer recently saved in Christ, this is the exact picture of what it's like for you to cast your cares on Jesus, focusing just on him. He holds you in his arms, protects you. Jesus cuddles you. He is your only focus. There is no alternative. You can't focus on anything else. Whatever situation you find yourself in, keep your eyes on Jesus as if you were a newborn baby. Do not sacrifice Jesus for worldly pressures or situations. They can blur out. Keep your eyes on him. Don't look to the left. And guess what? Don't look to the right. It's so predictable, isn't it? It is this expectant focus on Jesus in every situation that is my next best attempt at describing what it is to cast my cares on him. I'm still doing the casting. I'm still doing what I'm doing, but Jesus is my focus. Point 2, keep focused on Jesus in every situation. As we grow up in spiritual maturity, our focus changes more than a few inches to infinity. I was asking my wife, this is off script now, so I'll get in trouble. What do you see when you look at the night sky? Stars? Most of us see stars, aeroplanes, moon. But actually 99.999% of what you see is the void, the blackness, the darkness. There's so much more out there that we don't see because we have to have, and in the spiritual it's the same thing. If we could just see everything, man, maybe the blackness is all filled with angels. I don't know. But I see God's creation. I see God. I see God. Psalm 121. I will lift up my eyes to the hills. Could have been the stars. From where does my help come? My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. Why do I lift my eyes up to the hills? As soon as I see the hills and the mountains, I'm aware of God's creation. It's obvious that he made it. It's obvious to me. No matter how young or old, foolish or wise, male or female, hairy or bald we might be, just so you're listening, God is always there. In every situation, our best choice is to cast our cares on him. Now, this may come as a shock, but a long time ago, I made a mistake. I know, the doctor made a mistake. It wasn't a medical mistake, it was a spiritual mistake. As a new Christian, I made a mistake. I'm not ashamed to say it, I made a mistake. There's 3 times. And it wasn't the last mistake I've made. I've probably got more to make. Have you ever made a mistake in your walk with the Lord? Can I see hands up? Am I alone here? Great, that's good. I feel better now. As a new believer, I started running a small connect group at university within a couple of months of being saved. That was not my mistake. That's not a mistake. It was good. I then became involved in the worship ministry. Some might have thought it was a mistake, but they gave me a guitar before, when I knew about 2 chords, and it was just fun, but that wasn't my mistake. That was good. Then I thought I was doing well. In fact, some Christians with a gift of encouragement kept telling me, you're doing well. Be careful when you say that, I suppose. I was so smart, so intelligent, so young. I've got a picture I found the other day when I was at university. Man, I got hair, big bushy hair. And maybe I was even good looking. I read the whole Bible in about a week. I just got saved after all. Whatever I was told, I said to myself, I've read that already, because I had read the whole Bible, right? I whizzed through it. I got a skill in that way. I became proud. That was my mistake. That was my mistake. Okay, someone should write a song about that. I felt I could work it all out by myself and give God a helping hand. But then a good friend told me that there was another dude who thought the same way. His name was Satan. He led the worship. He probably did a good job of it. And he had a big following around him who was saying, "You're doing great." About a third of the angels, I believe. And he appeared to be doing well before he fell from grace because of rebellion and pride. You see, it's not about the mission or the ministry, and it's not about the people, about us. It's certainly not about my good looks. It's about him. It's about Jesus. Cast your cares on him, not on the program, not on the friends, on him. What else can I say? I've been thinking about this casting cares quite a bit. What about the fishermen disciples? I think of the story, the true story, this actually happened, because it's in our Bible, of their encounter with Jesus. John 21, verse 6 or 5. So Jesus said to them, "Children, you don't have any fish, do you?" And they replied, "No." He told them, "Throw your net on the right side of the boat and you will find some." So they threw the net. They cast the net, you might say, and were not able to pull it in because of the large number of fish. I don't want you to miss this. This verse is saying that casting all your cares on him first requires that you humble yourselves under his mighty hand. The fishermen should have argued. They'd already tried it many times. There just aren't any fish. What difference will it make to throw the net on the other side? Stop wasting our time. We are the experts, by the way. The stranger on the beach, who was he? We didn't know who he was. We know what we're doing. We haven't got time for gimmicks or time wasting. We've been running this church this way for a long time. We don't want new ideas. We want to go home. Actually, we're hungry. We're going to go home and we're going to try again tomorrow. We know our craft. We mend our nets. We know this business intimately. We've spent countless hours. And who is this stranger giving advice? We didn't ask for advice. Go away. We've been doing this for many years. But somehow, I think Jesus can be quite persuasive, can't he? Somehow, listen they did. And to listen, they had to humble themselves because they were the experts. Here's this guy. They humbled themselves. Okay, we'll listen to you. Okay, we'll throw the net just to get it out of our system. And of course, they had the big catch, the big miracle. And we can go home when it fails, they said. But it didn't fail. Jesus never fails. I don't know. I suspect I would have said, "Who is this person?" and ignored them too. Because, people always want to tell us what to do, and some don't seem to be very qualified. But wisdom is important. And where do you get wisdom from? The wisest people I know carefully listen to advice, even from strangers. It's a good thing to have. Proverbs chapter 15 tells us why plans fail. Is it going to come up? Plans fail when there is no counsel. But with abundant advisors, they are established. You don't have to agree with every advisor, but take as much advice as you can. And this is the thing about it. You have to humble yourself under his mighty hand to have any blessing. If you're in a boat on the water, you're tired and cold and hungry, and you can't find any fish, and you can't find God, and you think he's gone somewhere else, you might be right. You think maybe you're not good enough, and God doesn't care enough. Everyone else is doing better. It's just not fair. Stop thinking like that. If this is you, if this is me, humble yourselves and seek God and be prepared to do something different, to change something, to do something silly like throw the net on the other side. Even something you haven't done before, something that God is asking you to do. Cast the net on the other side. Just do it. Take a chance. Let God lead you on a journey of faith and courage. Maybe you need to change your job, start a business, sell a house, buy a house, knock on your neighbour's door, give a gift of service, kindness, food, time, love, generosity or prayer to someone you know. Unless you first humble yourself under God's hand, it won't go well. And if you do humble yourself, I put it to you, it will go well. In James chapter 4, it tells us about what happens to the proud who don't humble themselves. God opposes the proud, but shows favour to the humble. Simple. Submit yourselves then to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Come near to God, and he will come near to you. Wash your hands, sinners, and purify your hearts. Skipping a bit. Humble yourselves before the Lord, and he will lift you up. You see, these verses repeat themselves throughout the Bible. It's consistent, the same message. Humble yourselves, and he will lift you up. Make no mistake, God opposes the proud. Just don't throw the net on the side you've always thrown it and get the result you've always got. I'm not advocating being foolish. I'm not suggesting you turn off your brain, but I'm saying God can speak to you and guide you. And he often says something that's unexpected or different. Sometimes very direct, sometimes through others, believers and non-believers. And if you believe in Jesus, if you've been filled with the Holy Spirit, then always Holy Spirit will confirm it, and always the Bible will confirm it. Let's talk about some real events, because an example is better than too much theory. I've been busting to tell you about Uncle Harry. Last time I preached, I ran out of time. I had to take Uncle Harry out and throw him out of the sermon. Uncle Harry was an old guy, and he came to Christmas dinner every year when I was growing up, and he wasn't really our uncle at all. We called him that as a title of respect. As far as I could tell, he really wasn't anybody's uncle. He had no family. He had no one. And he just somehow knew my appearance. So every year he came for Christmas dinner, and as he got older, that must have been harder for him, because one year Dad had to go and pick him up. He couldn't drive anymore. And Harry sat there, old tweed coat, don't know if it had been washed for many years, stubbly beard and deaf, and he just ate and drank. He loved to have a pint of beer. Just one pint was enough for him usually, and he loved it. And he just enjoyed being with all the trimmings and the puddings, particularly the Christmas trifle with brandy in it, or brandy essence. Now, I just got my first driver's license, and family car I wasn't allowed to use except on special occasions, and so I said, I'll take Harry home. So this was my opportunity, and Dad was quite relieved and let me do it. But I wasn't prepared for what happened next. The street was in an old area of Papanui, and his property was an absolute disgrace. Grass was up to fence height. If it was happening today, I'd be getting on the phone to Tony here and saying, Tony, come and give me a hand. The garden was absolutely out of control, and I politely said goodbye and drove home again. But that night, I couldn't rest. It wasn't because I was wicked. It was because God was talking to me. I could not enjoy the things around me, my presents, my new clothes, chocolates, Boxing Day goodies, all the things we had. I felt God saying, listen to me. Has anyone else had that experience? Listen to me. And I didn't want to at first, because I had all those lovely presents to play with, and I was probably about 18 or something. But then I decided I would submit to him. I decided I would pray to him on my own in my room. I probably thought I was going to sort God out and settle this. I decided I would pray. There comes a time, in fact, all the time, when we need to submit to God. Every day we need to submit in order for him to work in each situation. So I prayed out loud, even though I was on my own. At first it was a whisper, but then it became louder. God, what should I do about Harry? I was kind of worried Mum and Dad would hear, because they weren't believers. God, what am I going to do about Harry? God, what am I going to do about Harry? The moment I said this, I was actually casting my cares on Jesus. It was worrying me. God, what am I going to do? And I think God was waiting for me to shut up, because he can't answer when you're still talking. You guys know that, don't you? Of course. So let me read that verse again. Casting all your anxiety upon him, because he cares for you. God weighed heavily on that moment. Have you experienced this? God weighed heavily, and I just knew that we weren't done. It wasn't enough to say, God, sort out Harry, and say amen. I could not finish. I could not leave the room. God had me. God had me in that moment. I did not want to kneel, but God told me to kneel. And then I found myself kneeling. Kind of There's a bit of a gap there. How did I end up on the floor? Because God needs a humble heart to be able to speak into it. That's how I interpreted it. When I'm standing up being a bit arrogant, he can't get through the wall. But when you kneel, it's a different thing. I began to describe the problem in more detail to God, how Harry needed help. He was alone and frail and probably sick, and it wasn't right, and someone should do something. And God told me, just through a certainty in my heart, to go around there. Sorry, you don't get to drive the car this time. Get on your bike. So I rode round there on Boxing Day and knocked on his door, and he answered. He was very surprised because Harry never got visitors, and he didn't ever let anyone into the house, but he invited me in. And in his house it was a hoarder's dream. Every square inch covered in piles of rubbish and magazines and old newspapers. In case you want to know what the newspaper had in 1939 or whatever, it was all there somewhere. And probably rats and mice as well. The house smelt bad. Even his bed had piles of magazines which he had to shift to lie on it. This plus the garden and the lawn was just huge. I don't know what you'd do, but fortunately I was moving in the Spirit at this point because God had put me there, and I didn't know what was going to happen next, but only God did. I didn't have the ability and knowledge to fix all of it, but I knew God had sent me. So a smart person would have said, Harry, can I just clean up your letterbox or something? But I foolishly said, how can I help? And he could have said, well, fix it all, please. But God must have been moving in his life too. Harry blinked. He stared at me and he thought about it for a little while, actually. And then he asked me if I could manage the lawns. I said, sure, relieved to have the job that I was actually quite good at. I knew how to do lawns. It was the mountain of a challenge, but I got onto it that very day. You put the lawnmower on the back wheels and you go back and forth and it keeps clogging up. You keep stopping and throwing the grass. It's a hard job and it was very hot. But I could do that. So I got it done by the following day. It took me 1.5 days. It must have impacted my dad because he turned up halfway through to check on how I was doing, make sure I wasn't busting my bazooka, which is his terminology. Don't do too much ham. But as I left, Harry thanked me, and he did pay me a little bit just for the petrol. It wasn't income for me, it was just to refund the petrol, which was nice. I didn't ask him to, but he was a nice guy, just lonely. And I asked him then, Harry, I've been wondering, why did you choose the lawns rather than the house? Because I would have wanted the house fixed up. His reply gave me a sudden understanding what he was doing. No one can see inside the house, he said. You see, he had lost his self-respect and his dignity, but in reclaiming his lawns, I've restored those to him. And in helping him, God was working on me also. I was a newish Christian at that point with my focus 20 to 30 centimetres in front of my face on Jesus. We should all reclaim that. A few months later, he died. I don't even know if he had a funeral, to be honest. Mum and Dad just mentioned he's dead. They found him in his bed. But I felt good about it, that something had been done. As a doctor, patients often cast their cares on me. And that's not what 1 Peter 5 verse 7 says to do. What do you think happens? What about if we cast our cares on Pastor Phil? Or Pastor Emma? Or our spouse? Or the guy drinking beer at the pub? It gets worse the more ideas they come up with. I think we should just stick to casting our cares on Jesus. When I feel patients are casting their cares on me, however, I do have a strategy which you might want to use. I try my best to give wise counsel and to direct them back to Jesus. I primarily do this by quoting scriptures. The 10 Commandments are often handy, as is the book of Proverbs and the parables of Jesus. I often say, a wise man once said, and even I get bold sometimes, the most famous person ever to walk this earth once said. We can do that, and everyone knows who I'm talking about. You see, casting your cares, your worries, your problems, your concerns on Jesus sometimes looks like fishing, and you can get an abundant catch. Other times it looks like divine intervention or direction to guide us through situations where wisdom is needed. It can look like a lot of things. Ultimately, it is placing something of substance before God and allowing him to choose how he's going to